names of recipients and hooders. New doctors, please come forward to be recognized.
Oh, turn around.
Summer strain will be hooded by Professor Alvini.
To be hooded by Professor Young Jik Kwan.
Bhupinder Shargil will be hooded by Professor Elliot Baldwin.
Donju Min to be hooded by Professor Martha McCartney.
Austin Moy will be hooded by Professor Bruce Schomburg.
Fran Dong to be hooded by Professor Martha McCartney.
Reza Subhani will be hooded by Professor Diego Rosso.
Shireen Deda to be hooded by Professor Martha McCartney.
Lu Man Jiang will be hooded by Professor Diego Russo.
Ming Jae Sung to be hooded by Professor Martha McCartney.
Joshua Smarati will be hooded by Professor Diego Rosso.
Xiaoxi Yu to be hooded by Professor James Earthman.
Linda Zhang will be hooded by Professor Diego Russo.
Bohan Yan to be hooded by Professor James Earthman.
Handel Sandholt will be hooded by Professor William Cooper.
Dong Mei Ren to be hooded by Professor Su Wen Wang.
Rebecca Sutana will be hooded by Professor Shuru Shen.
Govind Bish to be hooded by Professor Mark Madu.
Jing Li will be hooded by Professor Shuru Shen.
Camille Abby Samra to be hooded by Professor Mark Madu.
Amitabh Mukherjee will be hooded by Professor Lee Swindlehurst.
Peyton Lin to be hooded by Professor Shin Lin.
Shen Qing Wu will be hooded by Professor Lee Swindlehurst.
Henry Wong to be hooded by Professor William Tang.
Sanwan Chan will be hooded by Professor Ahmad Al-Tawil.
Wen Pei Lin to be hooded by Professor Chen Li.
Chong An Shen will be hooded by Professor Ahmad Al-Tawil.
Amber Greer to be hooded by Professor Brett Sanders.
Kiraj Professor G.P. Lee.
Beiruz Javid to be hooded by Payam Hadari.
Just there, huh?
Bo Yu Lee will be hooded by Professor Ender Anyanagu.
Bharat Rajaram to be hooded by Professor Ali Miraz.
Mo Ching Ling will be hooded by Professor Lydia Su.
Matthew Lee to be hooded by Professor Ali Miraz.
Elenia Santoro will be hooded by Professor Enrico Bratton.
Ahmed Al-Sadek Mani to be hooded by Ayam Masala.
Francisco Cartrill will be hooded by Professor Enrico Bratton.
Sarah Marie Adams to be hooded by Professor Regina Reagan.
Cockerel. Cockerel.
Shen Shen Shi will be hooded by Professor Enrico Bratton.
Who's this person? I have no idea. I hope he's like
Ahmed Yusupur to be hooded by